Hey guys, what is up? And Shadowlands back for another episode of Theory of Everything. Today I'm going to be looking at the question, is war fated? War is really not a good thing. A lot of people realize that, and a lot of people also look at the other side of things and they say, well, a lot of progression couldn't happen without war because, oh, it boosts the economy and stuff. And while that's true, no amount of loss like that is ever worth it in my opinion. So I just want to say that off the bat before I really get into anything. So now I'm going to say something that I've said before. War, or anything in general, doesn't have to be war, it could be anything, is one possibility that could happen at any moment. Moments are defined based on your point of view, and I've talked about that before in past commentaries. But it's defined based on a point of view. You look at someone and you say, how do you define this moment? And they could say, oh, it's a time of peace, it's a time of war, it's a time of industrial revolution, whatever. They can say whatever they want. And I'm doing hand gestures you guys can't possibly see once again. On an infinite timeline, like if time were to just go on forever, doesn't matter where it starts, but it goes on forever, even if there's only one decision maker, like only one thing that makes decisions, even if it's just a yes, no, blinker, whatever, if there's only one decision maker, all single reliant possibilities for a moment can be defined. Like, oh, this is going to happen, so it can happen. This is true, or this is false. However, war is a conscious decision made by a minimum of two sides. There can be as many as, technically a lot of sides to a war. You can have like 10 people, 10 armies fighting against each other or whatever, and none of them are on the same side. And usually that's how you get alliances and stuff to prevent that, but still. If it's a one-sided decision, it's a slaughter because then the other side's not going to fight back. If it's two sides, it's a war or a battle, even if it's just two children on a playground. It's two decisions that's being made to fight. It's not one person saying, I'm going to fight you, and then the other person just gets beat up and doesn't do anything. That's my whole point behind that. So you would need to have two decision makers for that to be possible. So a single decision maker can never make a war happen, however badly he may want to, or she may want to, or it may want to, for that matter. Moments in the past, which we call history, can be repeated. It's another conscious choice of at least one side to not have war. If you have two decision makers, one of them says, I want to fight a war against you, the other person would still have to say yes or no, or not do anything. But no matter which of those three things, it's still a decision. One of those three things is still a decision. If they say, I'm going to fight a war against you, guess what? A war is going to happen. If they say no, it's still going to be a slaughter. You can still have a slaughter or whatever with with still two decisions. I'm just saying, if you only have one decision, you can only have a slaughter. You can't have another thing past that. But two sides, you can still have previous decisions, like a slaughter or whatever. You can still have that. I'm pretty bad at articulating this the way I have it in my head, but I think I'm getting my point across. So that's the conscious choice part of that is free will, which I went over in another video, and that's very important. So I suggest you guys, if you guys are interested in this, you go back and watch that video too. And here's a perfect example: the Hitler paradox. If World War II, the Holocaust, never happened for some reason or another, which is pretty much the most common being the absence of Hitler. If you were to say if it wasn't going to happen, the most common way to fix that problem would be to remove Adolf Hitler from the whole picture. And although it's not the only technical thing for World War II, for the Holocaust and all that kind of stuff, it's one of the deciding factors for the most part, then humanity would not have had the experience of World War II or the Holocaust to learn from. And that's back to what I was saying at the beginning of the video. Economics can't be advanced without this whole thing, without war and stuff. It's kind of along the same lines. You wouldn't have the experience or the rush or the need. You wouldn't have all of that. So although the Holocaust and World War II was a terrible thing, and I don't think anyone would really argue that, humans as a race wouldn't have that experience of the Holocaust to learn from and correct if they hadn't had that experience. So it would have happened at some point. So therefore, a similar event would happen at a later moment down an infinite timeline. And the thing that's worse about it is, down a further timeline, technology would be better, and Holocaust / the World War II from the future would be far more devastating than having it at an earlier point in time. Think about this. Think about having World War II where every country had nuclear missiles. That would be a problem. Although we did drop the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Kawasaki, I think that's what it was. Forgive me if I got that wrong. I'm not a huge history buff. But if you think about it, if that was the only extent of our power, we only did that once to end a war. Now think about it if every nation had those at the time, and as many of them as we have today or more. So keep in mind, it could be actually at a future time than even now, too. That's my point. So the solution isn't something we can even consistently do. You can't say, I'm going to do this, but the solution is that it's better to have world-changing events in the past for the future to progress from and to learn from. However, obviously you can't go back in the past to do things. So so the long story short is that war is only fated if there's no experiences to learn from. If there's no experience of war to learn from, it's then a conscious decision to do or not to do war. And that's my commentary, guys. Thank you for watching. Please rate, comment, subscribe, check out the Facebook group, and you can't possibly see these hand gestures I'm doing now, but thank you for putting up with me. Shadowlance out.